Welcome.
Hello.
Channel 6 News, reporting live.
Wrong show.
Oh,
Not
Beyond
that.
the Basement, the complete Attack on Titan podcast.
Episode 31.
Warrior.
What a freaking epic episode. All right.
Otherwise known as Season 2, Episode 6.
Yes, Season 2, Episode 6.
Okay, we're going deep in season 2.
We are really going deep. Well, Season 2 takes you deep really fast,
It
right?
does, yeah.
This season, because so if you're not well versed in the Attack on Titan anime part, Season 2 is the short season. So
It's like
12
me.
episodes,
It's
right?
short.
I think
so. So then we're halfway through season 2.
yeah. So we're already halfway through Season 2, just
That's
six
true. We
six
only have
episodes
6
deep.
left.
And in that, I feel like Season 2 gives you as much as Season 1, but in half the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they just like are smacking you. And then Season 3, the end of Season 3 is a freaking fire hose. It's like unreal.
Yeah, you're trying to put your mouth around
Just
that.
drowning.
You're
You're like,
place.
All right. So let's do a quick recap of the episode, in case you have not watched it recently, to refresh your memory. So this one begins with, they're bringing Ymir up. Remember, she's just transformed. She was severely wounded. They're bringing her up the wall, and they're kind of on retreat because they think that Wall Rose has been compromised. They still think that that's the case. Now, no holes have been found yet, but anyway, so they're bringing Ymir up, and if she was normal, she'd be dead, but she's not, so she's somehow healing from all this.
Steam is rising from her entrails.
Mm-hmm. And we have Krista, who we now know is actually Historia, making a defense for Ymir to Hanji, saying, no, like, she's an ally to humanity, so on and so forth. So, then we cut to, this is all taking place on top of Wall Rose, right? No.
Maria.
Wall Maria. Yeah, that. So this is all taking place on top of Wall Maria here, which they've retreated back to. And
The second wall.
while they're up there, Reiner's complaining like, "Oh, this Titan like almost got my arm," so on and so forth. And there's the rain starts to come, and there's this eerie vibe for most of the episode, and you don't know why, but you know that it's there. Even if you don't know what's coming, you know that it's there. So, so Reiner talks about being a good soldier and so on and so forth. Hanji says that they're actually going to send somebody back to Connie's village to find out what the heck was going on with that Titan he thinks was talking to him and
Was
looked
like
sort
stuck
of
on
like
the house.
his mom. Then the big moment just catches you completely by surprise. It's so
Like
nonchalant that it's actually a better effect than if they were to like. I legit think the way this is nonchalant, this part is actually better than if they had done it all dramatically. They just like Reiner just sort of casually is like, oh yeah, so 5 years ago we demolished the wall and to accomplish our primary mission, which is to destroy humanity. So he doesn't say that right away. The first thing he says is, "Hey, Eren, we need to talk." And they kind of pull him aside. So then he tells him, he reveals the secret, which is the most insane. Like the whole thing's insane.
Reiner's the Armored Titan. Berthold is a Colossal
Yeah, then
Titan.
he just goes on. Yeah.
And he's like, and you should come with us. That way we don't
Let's
have to
go
destroy
grab
any more walls.
burgers. Like Becca said.
What? And here's the thing: is they don't give you any warning because so you know how like the last 3 episodes ago when Ymir transforms, you're like, oh, this is it. This is another one of those big moments. Like the Beast Titan talking was kind of a big moment. We had some sort of like
the Annie reveal at the end of season 1. It took us all season to build that up.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 is like, oh yeah, by the way, we're 2 traitors
Boom,
who have
boom.
infiltrated humanity who want to kill it.
And the best part is that so they make this reveal here, and they're like, yeah, Eren, you need to come with us. And he's like, "You're going where?" And then they do a quick flashback to 12 hours earlier in the same day. And so we go back to when Hanji received a note from Sasha. If you'll remember from, I guess it would have been episode 28, I think, where they received this note and they realize that, this is the episode where they're talking to Pastor Nick and they realize they need to go find then Krista, who they now know is Historia. They're like, yeah, we need to go find Krista. And Sasha comes in with this note, but they never read the note. So we finally get to figure out like what's in the note. They finally show it to us, and they say that it's a background report that Hanji had ordered for Annie, which took a long time for them to get. But this background report that Annie is from the same town, supposedly, as Berthold and Reiner. And they're all stunned. Everybody's like, wait, what? And she's like, yeah, not only that, well, we'll get into this, but basically she reveals that they knew some, like, it seems like they were in on the female Titan when she attacked the whole 57th expedition. They reveal that, basically it looks like they had some information to believe. They weren't certain, but that Berthold and Reiner were in fact also in accomplices to Annie. So they're like, hey, don't let up any suspicions, but if you find them, make sure we get them underground and confined as soon as possible. So it cuts back to Eren and the gang, and he's like, "You're just tired, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, just tired, totally."
Yeah.
And Reiner goes on a weird, crazed little rant for a second, and Berthold's like, "We doing it here now?" And he's like, "Yep, we're doing it." And guess who shows back up? The Colossal Titan, aka Berthold, and the Armored Titan, aka Reiner Braun. And it's time to fight. There's the very last the very last shot of this one is Eren also transforming to engage in the fight, and it's quite delicious. Also, Mikasa does some cut 'em up stuff. So, all right, this is probably the biggest surprise, shocker, craziest episode, I think, to me. When I watched it the first time, this was the one that threw me the hardest because I really didn't see it coming. I knew like something was up because of the like vibe of the episode.
Yeah.
But it really took a second. Like, you know how Aaron's like in shock when they tell him? I was also in shock. I was
Very
like,
much so.
wait, what? Are you kidding? Like,
I
are you
was
serious?
so upset. I'm like, not Reiner, come on.
It's just because they said it so cavalier. It just took us such by surprise, and almost the fact that Isayama just wrote it in. Like, I wonder what he was just having a bad day, and he's like, "Dad, I'll just tell him here. Like, this is whatever."
Tell him straight up.
And it's almost like insulting how like non-dramatic this is, but it's so important, and it's such a huge. The implications of this are everything, right? And we just found out that Ymir was a Titan shifter secretly hoarding her power, right? In the intro to this episode, Hanji is like, "Okay, well, we need to get Ymir, safely secured away." And his story opens up and says, no, listen, she was protecting us. She fought her, gave her life to protect us. She's a friend of humanity. And Hanji says, nonetheless, the information she has is a treasure to humanity. All that information, we just went through 6 months of planning, of operatives, of freaking cat and mouse, cloak and dagger to get the female Titan, to get the information she had. And everything we did was all for naught because she turned into a crystal. And Ymir, the whole time, knew just as much as Annie.
Is she
what
not,
the hell?
Is she not at least half as culpable, or more so than the Wall Cult, the Order of the Wall Cult, Nick and all them? Because remember, Nick was like, "Oh, cover up that Titan."
Yeah,
like he had information. Like you knew stuff this whole time. You didn't tell us.
And you didn't tell us. You didn't say anything. And Ymir is actually like been on the group that's hunted Annie. She's been, maybe she wasn't in the interior, but she was been, she was part of the 57 expedition.
She knows about Eren.
She knows about Eren. She's been part of the group that's that's severely threatened Pastor Nick, right? And the whole time, she knows everything or something. We don't know what she knows, but she has this treasure for humanity, and she hasn't shared it.
You think she might have stepped up when it's like Eren transforms? You think if anybody would step in to defend the guy and be like, "Wait, actually,
me too. We're in this together."
Yeah, there's actually more than one of us, and like we can help.
Yeah,
and we're actually here to be like on your side.
That
we
would
could
be
save
that
humanity.
Ymir would have to not be a completely self-centered, self-serving, Historia-obsessed lunatic.
It's too much to ask, apparently.
You know what I was thinking when just a little bit ago when you're talking about how casually Reiner just is like, "Hey, I'm a Titan, and I did all the things." It reminds me of this show that was on several years ago called Alias.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
And there's this part where she's going on this journey and she discovers like a whole bunch of stuff that she thought she knew was actually not true. And then her partner, who she's engaged to and in love with, says, "There's something I need to tell you. My name isn't Michael Vaughn." And then bam, they get hit by a car. And you're like, what? Like, it's that kind of a thing. And then that was the end of the season. And so you had to wait all the way to find out, like, what in the world? It was just like that. Like,
it's like Darth Vader
your
saying,
best friend that you think...
I am your father,
Yeah, that you think is your big bro. Actually, I'm a Titan and I want to kill you and your family.
Gosh,
like,
dude.
and then bam, everything explodes.
We got emotionally hit by a car.
Yeah.
It's
sort of how
I've seen
it
this
felt.
episode multiple times. I'm still watching it. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It still
The
hurts.
feel too. It's that eerie feel of the rain. There's something not right. The camera angles are a little off. The way Reiner's talking, Eren's kind of confused at what's happening. It's like that is the exact feel stuff like this happens, and that weird like ice that gets broken. And right when that happens, it's like the It's like the feeling of right before lightning strikes.
Yeah.
Or right before
the tension is palpable.
A storm. Yeah.
You're like something's going to happen.
But you can't put your finger on it. You know that something's about to happen, and this is it
sends you into actual
and it's
shock.
so much more than you thought, screwed up than you thought it was going to be.
Okay, so let's kind of go through the episode chronologically here. So the first thing is they're bringing Ymir up on the stretcher, and I don't know who this guy is, but he makes a note. It's just he says, they ask about her wounds. I don't know if it's Chris or somebody asks about her wounds. Is she okay? And he's like, well, if she were normal, she'd be dead.
Her insides are like scrambled eggs.
Yeah, her insides are like scrambled eggs.
She lost an arm, a leg. She's bled out.
Part of her torso is missing.
But since she's Titan, she good.
So this kind of raises the question, because we've actually seen this already, right? Eren was missing limbs, grew them back.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else? Missing teeth. Like, he's been wounded in all these ways as a person, just in his non-Titan form. And he's able to recover from these things very quickly without thinking about it. He's not trying, it just happens.
Yeah.
And so we kind of assume that this is now a trait of Titan shifters. And now that we're watching Ymir do it, we can pretty safely say, like, okay, well, this must be the case.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She seems to be in a coma.
Yeah.
And steam is rising off of her body.
Yes. So I like that they include those details, and I'm bringing that up just for exactly what I just said, which is to note that like there's a lot of logical consistency in the details of the show, which is one of the things I live for. I love that this there's it's science fiction essentially, right? Like you could pretty safely put this whole show in the science fiction category, because there's this some quote science to this, but it's fictional science. They come up with some logic, but the show follows that logic pretty hard, like the whole way through. Unlike I don't know, Marvel comics and like anything in the cinematic universe
or any of the X-Men movies,
right? So
it leads you to wonder though, because you can get your arm cut off, your leg cut off.
Yeah, how much can you
get cut off? Can you get your
whole body removed from your head and you still live?
As long as you're is it have to do with the neck?
That's a good question.
Spine,
maybe as long as you're just alive, because later we'll get to it. Mikasa cuts Berthold in the throat and he still transforms.
Yeah, so in the Marvel comics.
Like he couldn't breathe for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine can get almost completely destroyed, and they can regen. A majority.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it would make sense if it was more like a worm. A worm, like you can cut a worm in half, but you can't go any more than that. I forget. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
The idea is we don't know the limits of their Titan healing abilities, but apparently Ymir is stabilizing for now.
Yeah, and so in a sense of in a moment of great irony, right after they show that and talk about Ymir healing or whatever, they show Reiner struggling to get up the wall because his arm's all jacked up or whatever.
He's supposed to have a broken arm.
Yeah, because that Titan.
His Krista Historia said, "I think it's broken," and he's like, "Yeah, definitely."
Oh, totally.
I think he does. I think.
Yeah, it is actually broken. That would make sense.
Broken.
I think he's you think he's. I was wondering if he's holding back his healing ability.
I think so, because when he takes it off, he's just
obviously when he takes it off, he heals. But here's the thing: I'd like to bring this up. Eren doesn't heal at all at certain times. And then when he gets into focus mode, that's when he unlocks all of his power.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And he crazy heals insanely fast. Remember when Annie jacked him up? He went in that crazy mode and was healing faster than anything else and whatever, right?
Grew back his whole hand.
Grew back his whole hand, all this stuff. But in certain times, he bites himself and he has to bandage up his own hands. He can't even heal a little bite wound from his hand. I think it's the same thing. Reiner's too split right now in his brain to even realize he has that ability to heal himself. He's not focused on his objective.
Yeah.
And I think he is actually jacked up and hurt. I don't think any of this is acting right now, but it's my opinion.
Okay. We'll get there. There's a lot to be said. In fact, we'll probably be talking about this for the rest of this freaking show as Reiner's state of mind.
It's Historia. Historia is trying to convince Hanji.
Yep.
Hey, I promise, I know.
She's putting in a good word for Ymir with Section Commander, please don't kill her or put her in jail. She's my friend.
Yeah.
But she also might be an enemy. But I don't think she's an enemy because she didn't regard her own life. But yeah.
The difference between Annie and Ymir is that Annie, in her normal life, was just kind of a nonchalant person. Ymir was a jerk.
Yeah.
Annie, in her Titan form, actively killed a lot of scouts and committed terrible atrocities. Ymir hasn't done anything in her Titan form that we know of so far, right?
Other than defend them.
The only thing she's done is she's defend them. So even though it appears like Ymir could be our enemy, Historia's making the case, look, she actually fought for us. She gave her life for us. She was ready to die to save us. So I think that she's a valuable friend. And so Hanji says, yeah, well, obviously she has a wealth of information that could be a treasure to humanity. And she says, I hope we can build a trusting relationship with her.
Yeah.
She hopes they get along.
Which I love.
It's very hard to do with Ymir.
I love, yeah, right. I love this attitude in Hanji, and like again, we've talked about this at like through season 1, but there's a lot of contrast in the different like styles of leadership, even within the different characters and within the walls within humanity, because not everybody is a Hanji who's got a scientific curiosity and kind of an openness and a humility, or like
way of looking at things.
Yeah, or Erwin's ability to kind of be like this is a weird connection to make, but like, so Abraham Lincoln, one of the things that made him famous as a president, besides obviously the Emancipation Proclamation, fighting the Civil War and ending slavery and so on, one of the things that like kind of defined him is what they would call his political genius. But his political genius was actually based on a couple of things, which is humility, listening, understanding. Like that was kind of where it came from. But in particular, it was this idea that like as a leader, it's okay to not know all the things, but you gotta be open to. Basically, you got to be open to make compromises that you may not instinctively want to make. So this idea of like, what's the word term? Oh, withholding judgment. That's kind of one of those things that defines Abraham Lincoln's like presidency. Is his ability to withhold judgment, wait for the kind of like the evidence, wait for somebody to make their point, for the evidence to come in, and then when necessary, make the correct compromise. Not all compromise is good. There's lots of bad compromises in life, but to make the correct compromise in order to get the greater result, which in his case obviously was convincing the North to go to war with the South, and all that. Like he had some monumental things to like, kind of go up against, and so that's an incredible. That's like a high tier like level of leadership, is one that's like self-aware and like patient and all that stuff, which is far different than like kind of the maybe you've got a boss or a manager who's just like, no, I always know what's right, or like the more like commanding, like almost like once you get through the commanding, like get into like tyrannical. So there's like different ways of leading, obviously. And I just love that like in this show, you actually get that whole gamut. Like you see people who are at the kind of the guys who aren't really leading at all, who just panic, like kill Eren, he's a Titan, to kill him. Hanji doesn't have that at all. She's on the opposite end. And she's willing to she's willing to hear out, Krista, who at this point is a nobody. She's just a random scout. I mean, she realizes she's royalty, but I'm saying like her opinion, what does her opinion count for anything? Hanji's willing to hear her out, and she's got like I said, she got enough scientific curiosity, and she has now some experience knowing what happened with Eren, that he's proved to be an asset, and she's willing to like take these risks and to like hear all the information and go, all right, well, moving forward, like I hope we can rebuild with her, and we're gonna we'll take it one step at a time. But she doesn't just like react. She doesn't just like get into this like no, and she's in prison and blah blah, and like she doesn't have this like heavy hand with the whole thing. Like she's in charge, no doubt. She'll hold you over the freaking wall to get information out of you, threaten you with your life if she needs to. But she doesn't have like just a heavy like hand and isn't just like emotional in her response. So I actually really appreciate that.
Well, and then the next thing she says is, first we're going to send her to Trost and get her medical attention, which is very humanitarian of her.
Yeah, I'd say Hanji is like one of humanity's best assets.
Right.
Yeah. One of the greatest hopes for their survival is somebody like Hanji, who's intelligent, a good warrior, knows the military inside and out, knows how to like get things done, and ultimately is willing to make compromises to achieve victory.
Love it.
I also like that she's like, oh, by the way, what's your name or whatever, and then she says, oh,
yeah,
Historia Rice, and she goes, from that family?
Yeah, the noble.
We don't really know what that family is yet.
They haven't told us.
Particularly,
they said it's part of the royal family.
Did they say that? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, she just says that
we
family.
don't know much about this
that
royal family yet.
And then she says, yes, that family. She goes, oh, nice to meet you. Yep. And I don't know. I like that she acknowledges her as her real self.
Her real identity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing they say about Ymir is, Historia makes the point that Ymir is actually much more simple of a person than you would think.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. Like she tries to act all like aloof and like she's just, really...
mysterious and
jerkish person, and maybe she's more simple than that. Maybe she's just a hurt person who's hurt other people and wants to do something right, wants to have meaning, and wants to live for a purpose. And maybe if we treat her like that, she'll give good results. And Hanji says something really important. She says, even if she's simple, the world is really confusing right now.
Yeah.
Kind of a profound point, actually.
Very profound. And she's not the only one to say it this episode. Armin echoes the same thing later on.
That's true.
That's true.
All right, so cuts over to Reiner, and I think Eren's one talking to him. And he's like, "How you doing?"
Reiner's losing it.
He's like, "Oh, my arm, it's all messed up." He mentioned, he's like, "I'm in a lot of pain," and Armin's actually standing around. And he goes, "Actually, this isn't the first time that I've been through this." And he's like, "Remember, Armin, when I almost got crushed? When I almost got crushed in the hand of that one Titan?" And Armin's like, "Oh yeah, I think I'll do a little flashback." Like, yeah, when he was in the hand of that Titan, which is a great little like foreshadowing detail, actually.
Yeah, he says, "No, you don't understand. This is the second time for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've almost died twice at the hands of Titans, and I've only gotten out like with just the skin of my teeth, basically."
There's not much he says something to the effect of, "I probably won't last much longer.
I'll be dead before I know it. At this rate, you're going to be dead before I know it."
And then he kind of laments and he says, I've picked this path on my own, the soldier's life. And Eren says, you guys have had it really hard. You've been driven so far from your hometown, but here's where we're going to draw a line. We're going to get you guys back to your hometown at some point. And that apparently sets off a light bulb for Berthold, who has been glancing over his shoulder with wide eyes this entire time.
He's been suspicious the whole freaking time. Yeah, it's hard to notice him because he's subtle, but he's been
he's been freaked out for several episodes.
Their reactions.
You notice the quiet people in this show are the ones you got to look out for, okay?
Yeah. So he says, "Yeah, Reiner, that's it. Let's go back to our hometown. Don't you think it's time? We've been here long enough. Isn't it about time to go back? Compared to the trouble we've been through, what's left to do is nothing. We're so close. A few more steps till the end."
And Eren at that point is even like, "What?
Yeah, what are you guys talking about?
Doesn't make any sense. Like, what are you even talking about?"
And right on the heels of like, wait, what's going on? Isayama cuts us over to Hanji and Connie. We don't care, Isayama. We don't care about Hanji. We don't care about Connie, his stupid village, and all his, Okay, we do care.
I care about
we
stuff, but not right now.
do
but
care,
not
Pete.
right
Calm
now.
down.
Please, just tell me what's happening, okay?
It's the same thing as what happened in the tower. In the tower, like Reiner, like is like, "Wait, you can read this?" And he's like, "You're," and like he's having this tense moment with Ymir, and you're like, "What the frick is going on?" And
Everyone,
they cut
please
you off.
wake up.
Like, "Look, there's Titans outside." I'm like, it's not that I don't care about the Titans outside. I do. Yeah. But what the frick was he gonna say? Like,
Titans can wait for a while.
Yeah, please finish this conversation. Yeah, this whole like, gosh, okay, we kind of need to talk. We kind of need to go walk through the details a little bit here before we can like.
Oh, this
make
is
too
when
many comments.
Hannes breaks in, actually.
Yeah.
On horseback and kind of distracts everybody for a second.
Yeah, so Reiner has this kind of weird conversation. He drops this line. This is what I was going to mention. He says, "A soldier's spirit breaks before his body." And that's actually when we get the quick cut of like Berthold like looking at him like, "Huh? Like, are you okay, man?" Okay, yeah. So then it cuts over to Mikasa's helping Connie up the wall, and he and Hanji talk for a minute. And she's like, "Hey, we're gonna send scouts out to your village to see what the heck is going on," because he's obviously told her, "Hey, there's a Titan that looks like my mom, and I think talked to me, and it's incapacitated, it can't move, and it's sitting on my house. So if you want to go check
that out,
also,
science lady."
All the villagers are missing, and there was no blood.
Yeah, no blood. So
and the horses are all still there.
Yeah.
So then they look down. They see Hannes, our old friend. You'll remember the guy who actually rescued Eren and Mikasa's kids from the first attack of the Titans. Attack of the Titans is a great old sounding movie name. Anyway, so he comes in and Hanji says, he's part of the advanced garrison, and he shows up and says, "Listen, there's no hole. Like, we looked all night. We ran into this other group. We retraced all of our steps. Like, there is no hole." Okay, and so we kind of already assumed this because the other scouts have all basically said the same thing. They've also looked at the whole wall, and they've looked through this entire area from, I don't remember what the two outposts are.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Something, and there's no Titans.
But we know the Titans came from like this area, and they circled all the way around both sides. So.
And they also haven't seen very many Titans. Hanji even says, "I thought this place was going to be swarming with them by now."
Yeah.
But it's not, because remember, Titans are
nobody's
attracted
really seen
to humans.
any except at the castle ruins.
And so this opens up this just giant, like, justified mystery here, which they've kind of been hammering this whole season, which is, okay, Titans have appeared inside the next wall, but there's no hole in it. So where the heck did they come from? And there hasn't been that many of them, and they're sparse. Like, this is nothing. If this was another attack, what the heck? Where was this attack? So on and so forth. Nobody saw the Colossal Titans. Nobody saw the Armored Titans. Like, none of the same stuff that's happened before is happening this time. Mm-hmm. And
Hanje's just like,
yeah, she's like, well,
so
she says, yeah, if there's no hole, then so be it. For the meantime, we need to fall back to Trost. But this is a good like point to make, which is that like we know now the Armored Titan and the Colossal Titan are sitting right there on the wall, so we can be fairly confident there's no hole in the wall. And that means that these Titans appeared somehow inside the walls.
Or carried over, dug.
So I don't want to say too much over the first timer, but just think about what weird crap has happened inside of the walls so far.
Hanja brings up a point. Maybe they dug under the wall. Is that the case?
Yeah.
She cuts to that later, though.
Can we talk about the Miner story right now? Is that...
Sure.
I mean, they showed it in the show at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a major thing.
Okay, so...
It's a minor thing.
Season 1, there's those little cuts in between, and there's like random little public discourse, information, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of them is...
declassified documents.
Yeah. One of them... The news flashes. One of them is a fairly long story, actually. Like, we had to pause it and read through like several pages.
3 or 4 different...
Yeah, like 3
slides.
screens worth of text. And the text just says that there's a story about a miner, years ago, and he lived in this mining town, and he decided, I can't remember what made him want to dig under the wall. We'll have to go back and look this up. I wrote the whole thing down. So he goes to dig under the wall. He does it by himself, and he does it for years, and he digs and digs and digs, and no one knows about his secret about it. He's like doesn't have any family, isn't married. He's just like a dude. And he digs, and eventually comes to a point at which it's impassable. And I can't remember what it is. He discovers something down there, but he realizes the walls go way the heck down in the ground.
Doesn't he eventually get a partner to help him?
Well, yeah. So he goes to the town bar and eventually tells his friend about it. And then what happens is he gets taken away. Like the secret police or somebody show up and take him, and he's never heard from again. And I can't remember what happens to his hole or whatever. I need to go back and read the story. But basically, the gist of the story is...
There's a mysterious story.
The walls go way the heck down the ground, which apparently Hanji doesn't know. So it's weird that we know
also,
that.
Also, he hit some sort of impassable barrier.
How could you live
that he couldn't dig around
inside walls and never
have dug to
see
what
dug
you don't know
thought about
of.
it? Or
there's no seams in them. There's no
No one knows how they were built or how to fix them when they break.
Everyone says they're divine.
Yeah, kind of a weird thing. So, I mean, now that we've seen a Titan inside the wall, you have to wonder if what the dude saw was Titan feet or something. What was it exactly that was down there? He get freaked out of his eyes, see a face or something like that.
So that's when so she decides to go back. We're going to go back to Trost, right?
Mm-hmm. Eren hits,
no one knows what the heck is going on. So then Eren, Mikasa, and Armin are talking with Hannes.
He's like, don't let your guard down.
Yeah.
Well, Eren's like, Hannes, are you sure you're not drunk right now?
Yeah. He's like, no, I'm not. I haven't been drinking.
Most disparaging thing you could say to a senior,
Okay.
Yeah, so he says,
then they're all
keep your guard up.
Yeah, and then they're like, all right, peace out. And he goes, I'm going to go ahead of you guys. And then they start walking off.
And then Reiner shoots Eren a text.
Hey,
he's like, hey, bro, we need to talk.
To you.
You up, LOL? Yeah.
No, he just
okay,
he actually grabs his wrist. He's like, hey, I want to talk to you. So he hangs back.
And immediately when someone tells you they got to talk to you about something,
we need to talk.
That's
the most ominous thing you can say.
This is the moment, the Michael Vaughn moment.
Your mind
he's just
goes back.
First of all, I need to tell you.
Okay. Reiner's going to talk to me about the fact that I stole some lunch out of somebody's, in 3rd grade. No, he's going to talk to me about the fact that I took lunch money. No. He's going to talk to me about the fact that I've got a hidden action figure. What is he going to talk to me about? And you go through all the worst things in your mind possible. And someone tells you, hey, we need to talk. You're like, oh no, what did I do? And this is the worst possible outcome that I could ever think.
He just so casually launches into it like he's just talking about, I was brushing my teeth this morning and I found your underwear on the floor and I want to know why they were in the bathroom.
It'd be like Rachel coming to me and be like, hey, can we talk for a minute? I'm like, oh yeah, sure, Rach. I killed 3 people this morning. So, but with no context.
Yeah.
Just
and I buried them in your backyard.
In a video game? Or what do you, yeah. And she just launches.
We should watch the dub version and see what they say, because in the sub version, there is no emotion in his voice.
He's so calm and casual and just he's talking about regular stuff.
Yeah. He reminds me of the guy from The Simpsons, who's the actor guy.
Yeah.
I'm Troy McClure. And he's like, I'm Reiner Braun. You may remember me from such things as killing your entire village and murdering half of civilization.
He says it with less emotion than when I tell stories about spiders I see in my bathroom. Like, he's just so calm.
Yeah. So he says, 5 years ago, we demolished the wall and began our attack on humanity. I'm the Armored Titan, and he's the Colossal Titan, and it points to Reiner.
Like cutting to Hanche and Connie, and they're talking about random
It's cutting up in between.
It's so annoying.
As this, like, super
the biggest reveal of those seas of any... really the biggest reveal, period, so far.
Epically.
It's like aliens land, and they're talking to Rachel, and I'm like, hey, Becca, you want to go get something to eat? Yeah, it's good. Like, there's an alien, right? Bro, just focus for a second.
So then they're like... And then that's when Hanji's like, what if they dug under the wall?
And we talked about this. We thought that... Because earlier, when Berthold is trying to convince Reiner, he says, hey, let's go back to our hometown. Like, we've come so far, we could probably go back. It's about time to go back now. He's speaking in code, obviously. Now we know, because we know that he's not from around there.
He ain't from around
these
parts.
His hometown is not anywhere nearby.
Where is he? Where are they from? Where do they come from? Why do they want to destroy humanity? Why do they kick holes in the walls? Obviously, they're from somewhere else. So, excuse me. So we thought, well, maybe they conferred, and Reiner and Berthold are talking, hey, let's go tell Eren our secret.
Yeah, now's a good time. Like, we're actually in a good tactical position. You'd think that that's what the conversation was because of the way Reiner presents it.
Yeah, and that's what it makes it look like. But Berthold's like, what, Reiner?
He grabs him, and of course that catches Mikasa's attention. He's like, why are you telling him this? So then Mikasa's like suspiciously looking back.
Her suspicious turnaround has got to be...
Well, I think her Eren sense was tingling because she wasn't right next to Eren. So Reiner doesn't stop and say, oh, Berthold, I'm glad you asked. I will tell you all the logical reasons. He just keeps on telling all of the secrets they've kept hidden for 3 years.
It's almost like he doesn't even feel him like grabbing him. Like, why are you telling him this? He just like keeps talking like nothing's happening.
Reiner right now is what we hoped every single person in every movie would be. Because like, remember like the guy's got a secret and he's like, tell me your secret. I will, but there's no time. We got to go. Like, no, just stop right now and just tell me your freaking secret right to my face. We have plenty of time.
With every detail.
Just spit it out. And then they get hit with an arrow and they're like, I can't tell you. And they die before they can spill the beans.
I remember being in gym class as a kid with you, and we would do the thing we have to like run a mile, and we could still talk while we're running. Right, it's actually possible.
Yeah. Normal people can do that. I have an asthma attack whenever I run.
It's not easy or super coherent, but if I had to tell you like this, like my liver is made of gold, like I could tell you that while running.
Yeah, especially if it was like imperative information. So anyway, Reiner is just like unfazed by Berthold's freaking out of them spilling this deep, dark secret, and he says, our primary goal was to ensure all of humanity was wiped out, but now there's no need for that. What?
Right. Like he's just announcing the evening news.
Eren, if you agree to come with us, we won't have to destroy any more of the walls.
It's so simple and easy. Now you can be a part of the stopping humanity from dying part.
Now you can prevent forest fires.
So again, we're... All right, I'm going to kind of like pause here. Kind of like, why is it happening the way that it's happening? The kind of, like we've talked about, Reiner's presenting this in a really nonchalant way. Eren's caught off guard. He's like, what do you mean by all this?
Berthold's caught off guard.
Berthold looks like he's about to crap his pants.
Even the scenario where he's telling, like, they have a little bit of privacy, but not really. Like, they're literally all supposed to be leaving right now. Like, there's like, the train is leaving. All the rest of the scouts are walking off, and they're not walking with them. So they don't have much privacy. Mikasa is like feet, like maybe a few yards away. And Armin as well, right? Like, nobody's that far away. Like, they're doing the cut back and forth between the conversation and then what's going on with Hanji, and like the whole thing has this kind of like air of confusion about it, which is on purpose. That's by design. And the confusion is not for you, the audience. It's not for us. The confusion is actually kind of illustrate that Reiner himself is confused.
Yes.
He's acting, and he's been acting in kind of some. If you catch on to the last several episodes, he's been acting in some kind of odd ways, been saying some kind of odd things. This is where it really comes to light, like, oh, part of the weirdness is the fact that he's the Armored Titan, right? Like, big reveal, oh my gosh, like, what does all that mean? So if you're the Armored Titan, why are you also a part of the Scouts? Like, oh, what, you're asking all of those questions. But, like, he himself was talking 5 seconds ago about, like, we got to find the hole in the walls, and like
we got to plug the hole, and focus on the mission.
Yeah, focus on the mission. He was talking what seems to be very authentically in exactly the same
way.
Sincerely.
Yeah.
in the same way that any of the rest of the scouts would be talking about it. Which you could argue, okay, well, it's a really good ruse. Like, he's a great spy. But if you watch Berthold's body language, they do this a lot where he is clearly concerned about Reiner. And the fact that Reiner spills the beans and Berthold's like, wait, you're telling him now? Like, you didn't confer with me? What's going on? Something is wrong with Reiner. And I'll be honest, like, we've watched the whole rest of the thing, so if you're a first timer, like, there's no like spoiler to really say here. It's not like, I have some more thoughts on it. Some more does get revealed, but it's not actually super clear what all this is about or like why exactly it's going on. Now, Reiner does kind of explain himself away here in a second, but the confusion and the kind of the weirdness of this whole thing and like the eerie vibe of the episode with the rain and stuff like that, I just want to point this out. Like, that's not an accident. That's on purpose to like drive this like point home that like Reiner himself is like,
It's got all the energy of like, we're about to leave on a field trip. I'm gonna shoot my shot real quick with the girl I've always had a crush on, and like admit to my crush, like,
just
hey,
go
I really
for
like
it.
you. But well, like everyone's like just far enough away not to hear
right
every
after
detail.
summer camp.
Yeah,
and like the youth buses have all come back, and like parents are showing up,
Yeah,
and like there's
you're like,
crowds mingling. And
I
you're
love
like,
you. You know,
just
like,
so you know, like I had a crush on you for the whole camp,
Yeah.
and like
so it wasn't just me.
no, I don't know.
Okay,
That was no. Yeah, more than one young man in at a church youth camp has pulled that move.
So it just seems so odd. And he says, "Look, I know this is sudden, but just please come now.
No context. Come to where?
Come to what? Do what?
Come
Why?
with us.
Why do you want me? Who
Yeah.
are you? Where'd you come from? What are we doing? What's,
Yeah, he's like, you have to come right
you want
now.
to destroy
You
humanity, but
just
you're not
told
going to
me-
destroy any
You
humanity.
just told me that you wanted to. Your goal was to kill everyone. So he says, "Where will you take me?"
Yeah.
Well, Reiner's last line is, "Do you understand?" And he's like, "I don't understand." Actually,
Nobody understands.
Who
You
would
freaking
understand?
idiot.
And then he goes, "Yeah, why not just come with us?"
And he says, "I can't tell you. I can't say that yet. It's something like our hometown."
Oh.
So this is really interesting because he says, "I can't tell you that. I can't tell you where I'd take you." Which is like, man, that's juicy information we're
Come on,
dying
bro.
for. But he says it's something like our hometown. If you remember, there's a throwback to when we first meet Reiner and Berthold, and they said, "Hey, one day we want to take back our hometown."
Mm-hmm.
So we assumed their hometown was
Somewhere inside the walls, like
somewhere
everyone
inside
else's
the walls.
hometown.
But we remember that the Colossal Titan came from outside the walls and kicked the walls in from the outside.
Yeah, which you've been theorizing. I'm sure you did the same thing we all did watching the show. Is the whole time you're watching it, you're theorizing about what's outside the walls. I mean, from literally like 2
At
episodes
this point,
in,
it could be dragons and dinosaurs. I don't even know anymore.
Yeah. But like 2 episodes in, I was like, okay, here's my theory about the Titans. Here's what I think is outside the walls. I mean, that's just the way I think. But I mean,
Yeah.
like, you really don't see much of what's beyond the walls. We have seen some. I'll say this. We actually had, at this point in the show, there has been some scenes of outside the walls. Some of them you don't know at this point were outside the walls. But for sure, there's been a couple of scenes of the scouts real early on when they're explaining to you who and what the scouts are. In that first mission where Erwin's not even commander yet, and they're coming back and they're all beat up and stuff. They show some scenes of that, but it's just woods. It just looks like really similar to what's inside the walls, to be honest. Like, there's not much going on. So there's this huge question, like, what the frick is out there? And this is like our first, like, oh my gosh, is he going to tell me? He's like, I can't tell you.
say that. Dang. Okay. And he says, it's not a bad deal, really. You can easily avert this crisis. It's like, wait a second. The crisis that you and
Are
your
going to
friend
cause.
are creating, the crisis where you are the reason that all of humanity is under assault, the crisis that you are doing. It's like a terrorist. Like, hey, man, it's easy. You can
make all this stop. Like,
Yeah.
you can totally make all this stop.
But
right?
you've got the gun in your hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Just give me your wallet.
He
and all-
kind of,
and all
I don't
goes
know.
like
It
a
seems like
monster.
he's trying to appeal to Eren's heroic virtue a little bit. He's like, come on, you can stop this.
I mean,
Yeah.
he doesn't know what the heck he's doing. I think he's done lost his mind at this point. But yeah, it really is like a mobster, like going in and being like, oh, like, hey, I heard you have some like, bombings at your storefront lately. Like, yeah, I totally have. Like, you could easily make all this go away if you just pay up a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
like just like I'm like, but you're
You-
bombing my store.
You
Like,
can make it go away, but not being a terrible person.
Right, yeah.
We made the comment while we were watching that Reiner really should have taken this whole line over to Armin, because he's trying to appeal to like Eren's like intellect. He's trying to appeal to like Eren's like, his intelligence, trying to say like, hey, if this makes sense, if you come with us, thousands of people will be saved. All of humanity will be saved. One life versus that makes total sense. And Armin's like a really rational thinker. He's like, okay, I'm going to judge and weigh things. That might have worked on Armin. right? But you just so happen to be consulting with the most emotional, headstrong, stubborn,
the last thing that Levi said to us, try not to lose your temper.
Yeah. That guy, you're trying to appeal to his intelligence, not his emotions. Good luck with that, bro. It's like, hey, who can I reason with? Oh yeah, moody teenage girl. Come here. Yeah, you'll do
He's
great.
Basically that. Now, the reason he's talking to Eren, obviously, is that Eren has the power to transform, right? We know that's like he has this like same kind of Titan shifting power that the Reiner has. So you can be fairly certain that that's why. And it's pretty clear as the episode progresses that they know, right, that they've known this for a while, and that they are in fact after Eren in some capacity. And so you have to take that piece of information into account. Eren, I want you to come with us. Like, it's like, at least to me, I think he's fairly obvious, at least at this point. He doesn't actually want to get into a fight. He's like, we could make this like very simple. Like, why don't I just try a tacit threat, or something like that? Why don't I just try and appeal to his virtue? Well, I'm going to try some other things besides just getting into like a direct fight with him. Like, hey, why don't you just come with us? So what we're learning in this conversation is he says our primary goal was to destroy humanity, but we don't have to do that now. Why don't you come with us? So there is we've also, right, the female Titan, Annie, was trying to capture Eren, or we don't think she was trying to kill him because she ran off with him. She could have killed him. She didn't. So there's been this kind of maybe secondary mission of sorts to capture Eren. So I'm just trying to like kind of help build the inferences that the show is making right here. Okay, so
yeah, there's something definitely to Eren coming with them that could stop them from accomplishing what they say is their primary objective.
They want him. They want him alive. Say it that way. They want him. Like, he has a special power. They know he has a special power. It's similar to theirs. They want him alive. They want to go somewhere. We assume.
And they don't just want him. We see later on in the episode. We see
he grab Ymir.
They grab Ymir. So they want Eren and Ymir. What? They're both Titan shifters.
The two Titan shifters. Right. So worth pointing out. So Eren actually, right after he's like, you can easily avert this crisis. Come with us, whatever. Eren looks up into the rain and is like, I wonder about that. And like.
He kind of has a John moment.
No, he's like
he does.
I have enough to think about.
Yeah, he's like, and here I thought I had enough to think about yesterday,
And like again, for context, like they cut away to Armin real quick. He's like, "Hey guys, we're leaving. Come on, let's go." Like, no one has it's such a non-serious moment for anyone else, but it's the most serious moment in the world for Eren right here.
Eren can be like, "Oh, just a minute, Armin. We're talking about destruction of humanity. Just a minute. Just give me a second. They're the Titans. We're no big deal. Like, just give us a minute." You can't like signal to his friends like, "Hey, these guys are."
They should have had like a secret hand signal, like Armin. If I'm ever in trouble, I'm gonna give you this one. Yeah, exactly.
but the thing is, Reiner is clearly not in his right mind, and Eren still is in shock and doesn't believe him yet.
Yeah, and he's still in shock and doesn't believe him. But he says, the reason I bring up his comment, Eren's comment to himself, he's like, I wonder about that. Like Eren seems less surprised than he should be. Now, I can't remember if this has already happened at this point in the episode or not, but there is a point in which he's like, oh no, this is later. He's like, you're just tired, right? You've been through a lot. You're just feeling kind of crazy. Like Eren's trying to do exactly what he did for Annie, because like it says something about Eren. He's like so committed to these people as his comrades. Is like, no, we've like fought Titans together. We've bled together.
Yeah, he believes the best about them, even when he's confronted with the worst.
He's so unwilling to believe that they are bad people, which honestly is a really good trait to have. Like, I watch a lot of like spy oriented stuff. It's like one of my favorite like themes. And one of the things I always hate is that like in both fictional and nonfiction stuff about like spy world or whatever, like a good trait of a spy is basically like you trust no one, and you have to have like, and it's almost like common in spycraft to have sort of contingencies in place, even with people and trust and friends and stuff like that, just in case they're decided to double cross you recently or something. Like you have sort of like plan Bs or like ways of vetting and verifying what they said. I'm like, what a horrible way to live, where you like you don't have any trust. And like in that world, it obviously makes sense, but it's no pleasant way to live. It was a better way to live is to live like Eren, which is just like essentially assume the best, especially with the people you're close with, Yeah. And so
I bet you got that from Marco.
Probably. Marco. We could all learn a thing or two from Marco.
Who's it? General Mad Dog. Mattis.
Yep.
He said, I forget what the first part was. It was something like talk calmly or whatever, but always have a plan to kill everyone you meet.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, man. That's one way to do it.
Like I've got like 700 Facebook friends. Like, that's a lot of planning. I can't. I can't do it.
You got to have a plan to kill everyone. I mean, most of them could go down pretty easily. Let's say if they're like kids. No, I'm kidding.
Bro, too far. Too far.
What if I had this specific, virus that could,
Okay.
That's one way to do
that
it.
could only kill 0.02%. Oh, no, sorry. That's terrible. It's terrible.
Anyway, 12 hours earlier.
So, yeah, he looks up into the sky and then it just like shifts to 12 hours earlier.
So 12 hours earlier, we cut back to a scene that we've already seen most of. You'll remember, again, I think it's episode 28, is the episode where, they've got Nick and he's kind of been, Pastor Nick, and he's been through, I hate calling him Pastor, Heretic Nick.
There you go.
And they, he's seen all the suffering, and they finally basically get him to talk at the last second, right before they're about to take off. And he's like, all right, you're looking for a certain girl, and blah, blah, blah. We get all that whole story. Right during that, Sasha breaks in and is like, I have a note. And like nobody pays attention to her, not even Hanji. She's like, I've come to deliver this message to the section commander. So eventually Hanji does take the note, but they never read it. And like you watch that, and even at the time, my first time, I was like, what?
What's in that note?
Well, it couldn't have been important because they were just then thinking about the fact that Historia was the they were just finding out Historia was the royal person, and they had to go find her.
Yeah.
So what could be more important than that? Well, the thing that could be more important than that is that in that report,
it's a background report on Annie, and Hanji actually mentions like it took us a while to get this, which makes perfect sense. Like paperwork moves slow in any government,
especially in a pre-industrial monster attacked, ransacked 1/3 of humanity,
isolated
dead
civilization.
Yeah, like their dental records are not the best. Let me
a
tell
third
you.
of their population are refugees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
or dead.
Again, there's a lot of logical following in this show. Like all of the details, like follow like things you would actually expect. And she's like, yeah, because of the chaos of the walls and so on and so forth. It took us a while to get this information, but I got this background report on Annie, and the big reveal in this is that she's supposedly from the same place as two other scouts who are also in the 104th. Berthold, what's Berthold's last name?
Berthold Hoover.
Hoover.
And
Yeah.
Reiner Braun.
Reiner Braun. And so she says
Everybody
that, and there's a gasp.
goes,
Yeah.
but not them.
No, it doesn't immediately mean that they had anything to do with it. She could have just said that they were from the same area, like this doesn't immediately implicate them. And Eren even speaks up and says some of this to kind of combat. And Hanji confirms it, like, hey, this doesn't mean that they're
doesn't
Titans
prove anything
or they're with
immediately.
her.
But they bring up a few more details.
Yeah, Armin starts to put two and two together. Like, if you are on a court, you don't want Armin as your prosecuting DA. Like, you don't want him to show up and like, wait a second. Oh, yeah.
he'll
Isn't
figure
this
you
also
out.
when she says that it's the two of them, and then doesn't she also point out the strategy?
Well, she says the family. Well, yeah. So
The 57th.
the first thing she
expedition.
says is the family. So it took me a while to get these papers. The family records on all of these people are spotty at best. Again, because of the chaos, which would make sense. Like, who's Armin's parents? Does anybody know? Does anybody have any record? Like, we don't know where the fuck they are. What about Armin's grandpa? Like, he got sent out and freaking was one of the hundreds of thousands that died when the first walls went down. They had to go, like, basically, like,
they
population clear.
Some people.
Yeah, they had
He
to do
was
the
one of
culling.
them.
Like, it makes sense. All right, so we don't have a lot of info, but it's just curious that they're all from the same place. And we don't have family records on any of them. Then she says, they were part of the group that was told, which, so 57th expedition. We know that some false info was intentionally spread from leadership, from Erwin and the gang, to the scouts because they were trying to figure out, like, they were suspicious, like, who, there may be another traitor in our midst. That was the whole point. They were correct to do so. And so they kind of do the math here. They figure out that Reiner and Berthold were part of the group that were fed information. Their specific false information was that Eren was contained in the right flank. Armin brings up, hey, Annie attacked from the right flank. And that's when it's like, wait a second, like, what are you trying to say? And they're like, well, they could have shared information. That's what Armin says. And Eren, of course, jumps in to defend them. It's like,
that's circumstantial. That's not enough. And Hanji agrees, and then she says, but think about it. Is there anything else that they did that would cause you to be suspicious of them in any way?
yeah, she asked, like, what were your interactions like? What were they like during training? I'll ask you. You guys were with them. What were they like during cadet training? And they don't really have much to say. They're like, well, I mean, Berthold and Reiner were friends. Annie really didn't talk much. Like, even the Mikasa, that's actually one of my favorite moments.
She asks, did you ever notice them talking to Annie?
And Mikasa goes, I don't remember. And I love that kind of just because, like, Mikasa is like the great warrior. And she's like on top of everything.
She's
and even
suspicious of everything all the time.
She didn't know they were that good. Nobody knew. There was no real sign of trouble, right? It wasn't until after the fact.
And do you remember back in training, if we can flashback ourselves,
BTB flashback?
Yeah, BTB flashback. Back in training, Eren learns that little like trip move from Annie, and Reiner is the one who puts Eren up. Go attack Annie. They knew each other. They knew each other.
Yeah. He knew that she could teach him something.
Interesting.
It is interesting. So they point out, so they start to do a little bit more of the kind of talking about like, all right, actually, wait, before any of that, Sasha is like, wait, I've got something.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that she likes sweets even though she's grouchy all the time.
She's clearly a duplicitous spy.
Sasha Braus with the crackpot, like, good intel. The
great
Sherlock
investigating,
Holmes,
Sasha.
like, this proves that everything, yeah. But Eren says, I find it hard to believe. Reiner's like everyone's big brother. He's not that devious to be able to deceive all of us.
What a line.
And then Armin's like, I agree.
What a line. So talk about building into the confusion of Reiner's character. So I just want to pause on this again because this comes up so many times in this episode. Eren is telling the truth about Reiner.
Yeah.
This is Eren's experience.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm bringing this up, I said earlier, the quiet people in the show are the ones you got to look out for. Ymir doesn't say a whole lot, and when she does speak, she's a jerk. Annie was the exact same way. Turns out they're both Titans.
They mentioned that Berthold doesn't talk much either.
Doesn't talk much. Turns out
except to Reiner.
Everybody who doesn't talk much seems to have a lot to hide. But the one person who did talk a lot, the one who was buddy, the one who helped teach you something, the one who protected you, who saved Connie 2 times,
to
right?
Save other people, and
The guy
that guy, these other guys, yeah, they could be Titans, but not our big brother. Not the guy, the glue that holds our squad together. Not the guy that protects us. Not Reiner.
Now, this works. So Eren's like, no, he's above suspicion to me in regards to his behavior. Maybe, like you said, maybe the other ones, but not Reiner, because Reiner speaks and Reiner talks and Reiner's our friend, and we've seen him save lives. Like, he's done all this stuff.
He even tried to help Armin with his backpack during training. Like, he was always looking out for those that were smaller and weaker than him.
He battled his heart out against the female Titan.
Mm-hmm. So the subtle point they're trying to make here is if you're a spy, you're an infiltrator, you have something to hide. It's a lot easier to hide that if you aren't speaking, if you don't actually have much to say, if you are inconspicuous. Mm-hmm. And that's a genuine thing in spy trade. Again, kind of all my like spy novel stuff that I podcast and things, they talk about this a lot, that basically being unnoticed is one of the key traits. Like one of the most famous or one of the most infamous Chinese spies
to be a ghost
was a man who was he had a 30+ year career in the United States as a Chinese spy and was above suspicion until he was elderly.
Wow.
Like they caught him way after the fact. Why? Because the dude had an average desk job at the CIA or the FBI. Or, I think it's CIA. Like literally just was like a paper pusher, was like a faithful guy. Like, oh yeah, didn't say much, wasn't noticeable. That's the key to being a good spy. Reiner doesn't fit that mold. And that's one of two things that's happening. Either A, he's a sociopath who can fake emotions and can really, really manipulate and deceive, which is possible, I suppose. Or Reiner's not as good of a spy as the other ones. He did
feel all those things.
He's a bad spy.
Yes. He may well have felt all those things.
He's losing his mind.
This episode is painting this picture of a confused attacker.
Yeah.
Confused soldier.
If with Ymir, Historia finds out in the end of all that really she's a much more simpler character than we thought, here the opposite is painted. Here we find out that Reiner is a much more complex character than we originally thought. It's got so many things going on. And the thing that kind of cracks the case ultimately is the 57th Division. They find out that Reiner and Berthold were given the incorrect information about Eren being in the right wing. The female Titan came from the right wing. Reiner did battle with the female Titan, but then suddenly she changed her direction.
After this encounter.
And she was staring at her hand. And
Hanji asked, did
anybody specifically ask you about Eren's location?
She asked about Reiner and Berthold. Did they seem overly interested in Eren's location. And then Armin has this like
flashback of Reiner
Yes.
saying, "Where the hell is he?"
He's like, I didn't even think to talk about Eren until because Reiner asked me first.
Yeah. And then only after that, out of earshot of the female Titan, did Reiner carve in to her hand, we believe, directions to where.
Yeah, so that's when Armin puts together she was staring at her hand. And then everybody's like, "No, it can't be."
Right. So it sounds.
And then Hanji's like, "Calm down, everybody."
Well, yeah. And then she gives him instructions like, "Hey, listen, don't let him on. Like, don't act suspicious in any way. Just when we get him back, they got to be in a confined place.
And we got to
Get 'em
interrogate
underground.
him.
We gotta
and
get
just,
them deep underground,
we just got to make sure that they're not.
away from the sun.
Must vet them."
So then we flash back to this tense scene on the wall. And Eren's still, I believe, having a lot of trouble swallowing this pill that is like the biggest pill ever, right? It's the Titan-sized colossal pill. And he says, "You know when you told me you just killed 3 people? You were just tired. You're just making that up. You're just
You've
goofy."
been through a lot. You guys are just tired. Let's just go back to base.
Reiner, you know how he is. I was talking
Remember,
about
he killed all
being
humanity.
the colossal
He kicked the
armored
walls in. He's the reason my mom died.
No.
Armin's
That
grandpa
can't be real.
got killed because of
What a
him and his
jokester, dude. What a jokester.
He always brings the heat with these jokes, I tell you. So he says,
Good bit, Reiner. Hey, let's go get something to eat, huh?
Eren
Yeah.
kind of tries to like pacify Reiner a little bit. He's like, "Come on, let's go."
and Berthold is the worst actor. This is why Berthold
They
didn't say
both
anything.
look. They
'cause he
both
can't
look
lie
pretty
to save
freaked out,
his
though.
life. And Berthold's like, yeah, it's totally, yeah,
That's what happened. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, he's tired. Let's go.
of course, yeah, that's totally why. Definitely.
So then Eren drops the line on him. He's like, "Oh, I know for sure you must be kidding because why would you even ask me this?
No
What do you
one-
think I was going to say? Sure, I'll go with you. No problem."
Yeah, no one would ever pose the question like
Yeah.
you just posed it if you
Who
were
would
for
just
real.
agree to go with you so casually? And they both are like,
Another another little clue pointing at Reiner's not in his right mind.
He's not sound.
Eren's
mind.
question is legit. Why would you even ask me this?
Who would just casually walk up to you and be like, "Hey, I'm responsible for all of humanity's deaths so far. You want to come with me?" Sure, bro.
to
Yeah.
somewhere that I'm not going to tell you
Of
where.
course
It's
it is.
not.
absurd. It's absurd. Why would you do that unless something weird's going on?
You either got some really good candy in your van, or you're freaking nuts.
I
Okay.
love that picture that you like when you paused it and the
Yeah, we got to throw that picture up
Oh
there.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
freaking
I
hilarious.
The two
have
of
post
them
on
are
the
both
Facebook
like-
page.
So he says, "Oh right," and we see some sweat trickle down from Reiner.
And he like
His
comes
face
to
contorts.
Okay, wait, before that happens, the wind picks up
Yeah.
the breaking of
and
the
then
stat,
the flag
flag.
snaps, and I feel like that was like him. He was the flag that snapped
Yeah.
and flew off the wall.
Dude,
Yeah.
this is I know I mentioned this before, but like Isayama, like I'm
His eyes
always
go
wondering
all
what his
dark.
background is. We know he kind of has a background in like MMA, which we'll see some more stuff regarding that soon. But I really want to know what is his like background in with like suspense, thriller, horror, like movies specifically, because he has a lot of like things like this moment where gosh, I'm
The
trying to think of the
metaphor
movie. What's
is
the movie
just-
with the dying rabbit, the struggling rabbit, and that's kind of like a whole metaphor for like it's a kind of like
Donnie
horror.
Darko?
I don't know.
No, there's an old movie. It's like a '90s like thriller movie or whatever, and like one of the main metaphors in the movie is for you find out at the end. It's like one of the main metaphors for the main like character or one of the main villains is that like is this dying rabbit thing. And there's like a couple of different points in the film where like that horrible sound of a dying rabbit like comes up or whatever. I'm trying to think of what it was.
I don't know.
Anyway, but like that's sort of a trope that came from like these like thriller like scary novels that made its way into the movies, which is having something like this, having a what looks like an unrelated event, but it actually
then
speaks to what's going
Reiner
on in the film.
snapped like the flag.
Yes, exactly. And there's kind of like, and so here they do it so well because there's these dramatic pauses and that happens and it like freaks you out a little bit. And you're like, what's
Well,
about
and
to
also
happen?
the sound of the flag snapping makes everybody turn back and look at them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh right, forgot about that.
Reiner says, "What the hell was I thinking? Have I really gone crazy?" And you kind of see his face look up.
His eyes get
That
dark.
flag breaks off.
Oh, well, yeah.
The
Then the
wind
wind picks up, and then the clouds actually break, and the sun sort of comes out, which is an
Yeah.
even weirder thing to like.
It's like
happen.
the truth
Illumination
is finally
of the
being
truth.
revealed.
Yeah.
Yep. I've been here too long for my own good. It's been 3 years surrounded by nothing but idiots. We were just kids.
So mean.
We didn't even know anything. If only I never knew there were people like this.
Oh.
Meanwhile, he's slowly pulling his arm out of his sling. His broken arm.
His broken arm with the wounds, it just goes shh and just heals.
And he's unwrapping it while he's saying all of this.
And he says, I wouldn't have become such a half-assed piece of shit. It's too late now.
Oh, we have to make this an adult episode. Sorry, continue.
I'm just trying to be accurate.
Yeah.
It is what it said.
I wouldn't have become such a half-donkeyed piece of poop.
Much
he
better.
Says, it's too late now. I don't know what's right anymore. The only choice is to face the consequences as a warrior and fulfill my duty to the bitter end.
Oh.
And he's holding up his arm, and then fire comes off of it, and it heals just like that.
And so...
Meanwhile, Berthold's in the back going, "You're doing this right now! What's happening?" He's basically crapping his pants.
So
his eyes are starting to fill up with tears.
We've got to dive into each one of these sentences because they're so filled with meaning.
Every one of them. So I've been here for... Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, just right there, we can tell that Reiner really was hurt because his arm wasn't healed. Mm-hmm. He has the ability to heal his arm like that. We know that.
But he didn't.
But he didn't heal his arm the whole time.
On purpose, ? Or because he was so mentally confused that he was actually living in
he has a split
human
personality
now. As a normal human.
And once that flag snapped and Reiner came back, he healed himself immediately because he's focused on what his goal should be. And that goal is not a friendly goal of humanity. That is the goal to destroy humanity.
Animosity. So I've been here too long for my own good. So they've been in the ranks of the scouts / cadets inside the walls, right? For 5 years, I think, right?
Yeah, 5 years
at this point.
The attack happened.
5 years since the attack.
Yeah,
so
they've been inside the scouts and the military for 3 years, not for 5 years.
So they've been inside the walls, at least we know, for 5 years, but they've been buddy to buddy, neck and neck in the trenches
with other scouts,
bunking with other people for 3 years.
Yeah.
So he's been here for a long time. I've been here too long for my own good, which is to say, I kind of gotten maybe I got involved. Right? Next line.
Maybe I started to care too much.
He says 3 long years surrounded by nothing but idiots. So this would kind of speak to, okay, I'm just gonna not try and spoil too much, but there's a suggestion here, you guys are all idiots, you're scum.
You don't know
wherever
anything.
He came from, whatever his mission was, he probably viewed humanity with that going in. He probably viewed the likes of the people inside the walls as idiots. Mm-hmm. He's like, they got to me. They got to me.
Yeah, these ants, and even what he says is true because remember, the Beast Titan. We don't know much about the Beast Titan, but we know the Beast Titan says, "Oh, you have this ODM gear and you speak our language. That's pretty clever, A
lot of things he doesn't know about humanity.
A lot of things you don't know about humanity, right?" And he says, "Wow, you know that we reside in the Nape. Oh, you guys must know so much. But really, we just figured all of that out. We don't know jack.
Yeah, weeks ago.
all of humanity, the scouts, they don't know anything. We just figured out there was Titans in the walls. We don't know anything, right?" And here Reiner, I think, is speaking. He's like, "Freaking idiots! You guys, you don't even know what the war is."
Yeah, and then he makes another statement. He says, "We were just kids. We didn't know anything." So quick pause here. If you remember, we've actually had multiple flashbacks to this point where we see Reiner and Berthold as kids, and what we now know is Ymir going and eating one of their friends. Okay, so I'm not gonna let your imagination run with that one if you're a first timer, but they were literally kids probably
when they were
on their
sent
way in
on this mission to destroy humanity.
So yeah, if only I never knew that there were people like this. Which is sort of a statement in the opposite direction of "you're all idiots," which is, I wish I didn't know that there were people that were kind and were loyal to Eren and were leaders and had a heart and there's a weird, right? He's kind of going back and forth on himself here. He's you guys are so
people
great.
That he wanted to stand up for and defend and risk his life to save, Connie and
it really speaks
Eren.
to this issue of dehumanization.
Yeah,
it's exactly what you have to do in order to treat people like absolute garbage, right?
Yeah.
We've seen this with the slavery in the antebellum South, where the white Southerners believed that anybody with different color skin was literally less than human, was not of the same race as them. We had all this crazy bogus oh, you're different, because of your background and what your parents are, with the color of your skin. Complete dehumanization. And it's the only way, because if you believe that somebody's really human, you have to be a psychopath to treat them absolutely terrible, to do these terrible things.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that happens in wars. The Japanese told all of their soldiers that the American soldiers would eat children.
Yeah.
That they were these brutal monsters. And so they dehumanized.
So the same thing about the Chinese.
Right.
Anytime the Jews have been persecuted, which happens all the time throughout history.
So they weren't people. And you have to dehumanize is the first step to being able to commit these atrocities. Otherwise, you can't sleep with yourself. You have to be like, oh, they're just scum. They're just
You have to
ants.
look at them as monsters.
Yeah. And so...
But then you go and hang out with those ants and you realize some of them are sweet, kind-hearted, good people, courageous people.
Yeah, it's all the Germans who are working, on not the death camps, but some of the prison camps, and they begin to talk and have relationships,
become friends with the
Jews or with the American soldiers, and they realize man, we're all in this together, and that's the sentiment where you can see the Christmas in World War I, where they came. Yeah,
they stopped firing. They actually literally went on the craziest moment probably in all war history is the Germans and the English
on
Christmas Day had a ceasefire for that day and literally walked out into no man's land and had tea with each other
on
soccer. Christmas Day. Played soccer, played games, and then they had just been shooting at each other the day before.
Yeah,
from trench to trench. And had to go back to it the day after, but for that moment they were like, "No, we're brothers."
They realize that there's something.
So weird.
Yeah, it's one of the craziest stories.
There's something beyond just your race or my race, or your skin or my skin, or your belief or my belief. There's something that knits us together that's much deeper than that. And so when we talk about racism, or we talk about these terrible atrocities that were committed, or genocide, or whatever it is, the first step to that is telling somebody that they're not human, they're not worthy of love. The way to counter this is to infer the love, to infer value upon every single human being.
Yeah.
Every single human being is intrinsically valuable. Every single human being was made in God's image, and that gives them this insane value. So if you try to dehumanize them, you're going against what we believe is God, and B, you're trying to take away that beautiful value they were instilled with. The human potential is so unlimited, and so all these war criminals, the first step they have to do is they have to take away your humanity to commit these atrocities.
Yeah, and specifically against innocence. This is a complex philosophical ethical conversation to be had here, which is okay, well, but what about a Hitler? What about people who are wicked and are clearly a threat? Sure, okay, that is a separate discussion, though. Somebody who is doing grave harm and is an obvious threat, and there is a reason that prisons exist. There's a reason that there are times when violence essentially is called for in defense of innocence. Really, is the idea. But that aside, what we're talking about specifically here is to go in and attack just an entire civilization. You have to make that broad generalization about them. That like you said, they're all idiots. They're all less than human. They're dogs. They're ants. They're whatever. They're pigs. That's wickedness, right? And that's it's pretty obvious reasons why we would think that's the case. But the fact that that's kind of knit into this show, and that there's this, yeah, dang it. All right, spoiler section. I'm saving a part of this for spoiler section because I can't. It's something from the trailer for season 4, which we'll get into in spoilers. But just know that I think that kind of dehumanization and sort of allusions to the things that actually happen in real soldiers in real war, because of something that's in the season 4 trailer, I think that is totally on purpose, and that we're going to see more of that to come. So we'll get there.
So I think we've had Twitter accounts, so we're obviously qualified to make scientific observations,
correct,
and medical diagnosis, and because of that, we would definitely say that Reiner has a case of split personality. Reiner is definitely PTSD.
Emotional or trauma-induced split personality or something weird.
There are two Reiners. There's one Reiner who we just saw come out, who is... Warrior, who's a soldier, who will fight to the bitter
soldier
end.
And warrior, I think the two different ones.
Sorry, warrior.
Those are his two personalities.
Well, I was going to say big brother.
Sure.
And warrior.
Yeah, that's a clearer distinction. In the show, because one of the episodes is called Soldier, and it's Reiner defending Krista and helping
Saving
out the scout,
lives.
saving lives.
Yeah.
And
Saving
the next one
Connie,
is
yeah.
warrior, and it's like, no, he's like,
I must fulfill my duty as a warrior to the bitter end.
and you'll
Yeah.
remember, just an episode ago, in the tower, Berthold says he used to be a lot more of a warrior, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, because Connie says, "Oh, what a great soldier! Like, has he
Yeah.
always been this way?" And Bertold's like, "No, he used to be more of a warrior." And for us, us English speakers reading that,
They're like pretty much
those are like kind
interchangeable
of
for us.
synonyms. Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean? There's a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it described as like a soldier just does what he's told, and a
Yeah.
warrior like
Fights
knows,
for a cause.
fights for a cause, right? That's how. But that's not necessarily the way people use it
Yeah.
throughout our country. So I wouldn't
then
necessarily say that this is the case.
Yeah, there's a translation thing happening here too. I'm sure that we're not fully
Probably two
getting,
different
yeah.
Japanese words.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I would assume like because right, samurai means like to serve,
Yeah.
but we would probably we would look at a samurai and be like, oh, he's a warrior or he's a soldier. He uses those
Right.
interchangeably, but yeah.
So there's two Reiners. One Reiner is the warrior Reiner. It's the Reiner that gets things done. He's the Reiner who broke down the walls. He's the Reiner who's committed subterfuge. He's the Reiner who's cut into the female Titan's hand directions to take out Eren. He's the one who's secretly and began to fight against humanity and wipe him out.
He
He's
doesn't
a
care
skilled
how many
fighter.
people he has to kill. He's going to get to his
He's
goal.
going to get his job done. And we see him immediately heal his arm. That's the Reiner that you're about to see. The other Reiner is the Reiner I would say that primarily we've been exposed to. It's the big brother Reiner, right? It's the soldier.
He
It's
cares.
the one who cares. The
He
one
wants
who
to
lays
marry
his
Krista.
life
He's willing
down.
to lay down his life
He
for
wants
his
to marry
friends.
Her
Krista.
story, I
He
guess.
saves Connie's life. He saves other people's lives. He's
He's
the one who
looking
wants
out.
to carry Armin's pack.
Mm-hmm.
This is the man that we love. He's the big brother of the entire group, right? And I believe that Reiner is genuinely conflicted because he was told one thing. These people are ants. They're not like you and me. They're not strong. They're idiots. You're superior to them, right? But you go in and you begin to spend time and you begin to realize, wait a second, all of us were created equal. All of us. There's something together that unites us more than what you said that I'm supposed to fight this war against. There's more than us about your dogmatic theology. There's something deeper than that.
Yeah.
And Reiner's begin to discover that, and that's what split. And that's why every time he talks about marrying Krista or something like that, Berthold starts giving him the crazy eye because he's like, wait a second.
A lot of body language from Berthold up to this point.
If you go back now and you watch, you'll notice anytime Reiner's talking,
All the
Berthold's
subtle
always
things. He's like,
You okay, man?
you're talking like you want to live here. You're talking like this is your homeland.
Yeah.
This isn't your homeland. And that's why I believe he says in the scene, hey, let's go back.
He's
To
trying
our
to like.
homeland.
He's scared for his friend's mental health.
Yep.
Reiner's lost himself because he cannot. He's trying too hard to compartmentalize the war he's had to fight against people he now cares for.
Yeah. So the episode moves on. Reiner takes off the bandage, and then saying his crazy stuff. And he's like, "We're gonna settle
he's
this
like,
right here, right now."
and he's walking towards Eren.
And he's walking towards Eren, and
Big
then
mistake if you know who's around.
and Berthold is right. And Bertold's like, "Are we doing this here
Yeah.
now, Reiner? Are we doing it?" And he's like, Reiner just keeps walking forward. Here, we're gonna settle this right here, right now.
Let's do it.
And so, don't make threats to Eren when Mikasa's in here
within 500 yards.
because she will literally cut you up.
Miles.
Now,
They
remember,
did show a quick shot of her hands going for her sword.
yeah, she's like shaking
and
and
they
she's
were
got her hand on her
shaking because
blade.
she's ready.
Because here's the thing: is they gave us the context. They gave us the 12 hours earlier thing. Mikasa was in the room. She knows
Suspicious.
that they're suspicious, and she sees this kind of like weird conversation, and like she sees the flag thing and the
She
Berthold
sees
grabbing
Berthold
Reiner's
grab
hand.
him, yeah.
And she's like, "Okay, let's just go for
Crap's
it."
going
Yeah.
down. I'm going to slice somebody's head off.
Dude, it's
Mikasa
so
must killy
satisfying
killy.
when she just jumps in there, and freaking like cuts him up so fast,
He goes
and they
to
like
grab
can't do anything.
Eren. Yeah, she like slices his arms and then turns around and like knifes Berthold
She
right
cuts him in the
She
throat.
almost cuts his head off.
I wish she would have.
She weren't messing around. Okay.
He like starts choking to death and like spit's coming out of the corner of his mouth and blood's coming out of the other side of his mouth and he like starts crying and falls down.
Eren, run! She goes to freaking stab him through and then gets like knocked by Reiner, who has a blade in his arm and is missing a hand.
Yeah,
by the way.
Reiner throws his arms up and she cuts clear through one and into another one, which basically saves his life. We assume she cuts the throat, of Berthold, and she goes to finish the job on Berthold. Reiner knocks her down And we look back, Eren and Armin's like, yeah,
Eren has
get out of
practically
there.
been knocked off the wall at this point.
We look over and we see the dramatic
lightning
moment we've been waiting for this whole
I know,
time.
they both stand up. And
Berthold and Reiner, they begin to statically shock, right? The music swells up.
thankfully, they've already been injured. Good job, Mikasa.
Wah, 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 wah. Or I can't really do it, but it's like that
something.
minor kind of, like the orchestra
Yeah.
kicks in. Oh, the soundtrack
The yellow
is great.
lightning appears.
Reiner's like, I'm going to
Everybody
return.
starts getting blown off the wall.
Doesn't he say right before I'm going to return to the hometown I lost?
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, I'm finally going to go back. I didn't write it down, but yes, he has a final
Oh,
line
it's
like
a
that.
flashback. It's a flashback.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
Eren is flashing back as it's happening to them, beforehand. And it's like...
When they were first...
They were still in training, and he's like, I can't wait to return
That
to my...
flashback happens after. So they transform. You see the giant ribs like snap around the edge of the wall, and you're like, is he like transforming and becoming one with the wall? Because the colossal titan is starting to.
So freaking huge.
Stuff is getting blown off the wall. Eren's starting to fall. Ymir and Historia get flung backwards, and like Ymir's in her little thing, and she's like tumbling like a tumbleweed in a stretcher. And then Eren starts to fall off the wall, and he gets caught
by the hand of the Armored Titan.
the Armored Titan,
And it looks
who's
just
Reiner.
so epic.
And then
poster.
he like does the like the cop car move where he like throws his hip over and like starts sliding down the wall. And of course,
And,
Armin and Mikasa are both like Eren, which happens a lot in the show.
It does.
Eren gets kidnapped. Eren gets kidnapped.
Eren gets kidnapped a lot.
He's in
So
danger frequently.
as Reiner's like sliding down the wall with Eren in his hand,
then
Eren starts crying.
He grabs Ymir, too.
No, that happens
that's after?
next.
Oh,
Then he starts having his flashback of the
that's right.
homeland.
Okay.
And Reiner is saying, the only thing I care about now is going back to my homeland.
Yeah.
That's his
And then
center
you
north.
hear Eren in his broken, sad voice saying, Berthold, Reiner. And then it flashes to Historia going, Ymir. And then the Colossal Titan catches her.
So Ymir's been captured. Eren's been captured. These two guys who we know are the Armored and Colossal Titan have transformed. Like, it's game on at this point.
Then Eren starts having flashbacks of both of them and their friendship and moments of joy and
he
happiness.
cares for them. He wants to continue to care for them.
Because this big brother Reiner, showing them things, having fun, playing, saving them, doing stuff together. It's all this, the 3 years they spent with this guy. And then he does not pull an Annie where he can't believe it's not them.
Oh, the betrayal.
He
This
just
time
says,
Eren
"You
snaps
damn
like
traitors."
the flag.
Yeah, and he freaking bites his hand, goes full freaking Titan, and
It just lands one.
And we don't actually
Feels
see him
good.
land it. He like pulls back and then to be continued. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you guys
Comes back
absolutely
midair.
suck.
the next episode,
Come on.
Clash of the Titans, baby. It's
Dude,
going to be such a good fight.
it's delicious.
I can't wait.
It is 100% deliciousness.
Oh,
Okay, well, if you want more of this deliciousness and you're listening on wherever you listen to, Spotify, iTunes, Google, so on,
Stitcher.
you can find more of this goodness live on Facebook on Sunday nights. Again, we record every Sunday night. We do a little bit in between, and we will be live the second season 4 starts to drop. We're going to be freaking right here, live reactions to the show. You can also find us on YouTube, so go over there, youtube.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Go ahead and subscribe, like, tell all your friends, and also, if you made it this far, doggummit, these are some long episodes, and we're really slogging through it. You're clearly a fan, so you should, if you would please, go to iTunes specifically and give us a 5-star review. Write a little quip about what you do or don't like. No, forget what you don't like. Just only write the good things. Then,
We will take all the comments.
and then that will just help our other show go, a little further and help people discover. So that would be great.
Yeah, thank you
Email
so
us
much
too.
to the people who have already liked our videos and
Yes.
commented. We really appreciate all the feedback we've been getting. It's why we are doing this, and we appreciate coming together as a squad, as a community.
Dude, AOT fans unite. Specifically, emailers, you can email us at beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com. For those of you who have been emailing us, thank you so much. Doing my best to make sure I get back to everybody. Some of them are longer ones, but I appreciate. No, seriously, send whatever you got.
Send us all your novels. We will read them.
We got a suggestion in an email recently about doing an episode where we actually just read and kind of get into some fan theories. And so, if you've got theories, no matter how harebrained or whatever they may seem about romance with characters or like whatever it is,
Whatever it may be.
send them our way. I would love to do a little bonus episode where we sit down and kind of just read your guys' thoughts, feelings, theories. Your guys' thoughts on Ymir are good
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
right. I still don't
You're helping us come around
like
a little
her,
bit.
but you all have made some very valid points, but also in the YouTube comment section, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that said, if you don't want to hear any spoilers, this is your chance to move on. Pause your phone.
Spoiler alert.
Yep, spoiler
Rip
alert
the
is happening
headphones
right now.
out of your ear.
Yeah.
Throw them at your grandma.
Yeah,
Or
if you're on
your
a run,
cat.
Cardio.
oh, if you're on a deck and you've got a heat gun welder in your hand and you're listening to this podcast right now and you don't want to know what happens next, like
Melt your headphones.
take your gloves off, put the heat welder down,
That's
make
right.
sure someone so you don't get on the TPO. take the phone and pause it. Okay, that's your chance. Okay. All that out of the way.
5,
4,
3,
3,
2.
3,
1.
3.
Spoiler section.
Sorry, I'm tired. Okay.
Hey.
Hey,
we're back.
spoilers. Are we gonna clean
Okay,
glasses?
so
No. Yes.
Spoiler number 1. Let's drink.
Water is wet.
Okay, so
Water keeps you alive.
Berthold
spoiler.
is trying to be like, yeah, let's go back to our hometown. Why would he say this? We've already pointed out because Reiner's having, he's
A mental
weird.
breakdown.
Yeah. Also, they've seen War Chief Zeke already. They saw him, and so they know
They were
something
so
is up.
freaked out.
And so
Speaking of body language,
Yeah.
I'm thinking that he's trying to get Reiner out of the situation and being like, hey, let's try and sneak away or something right now. Like, let's go find Zeke. Like, they even kind of know his last location, to be honest. Like, they saw him throwing the rocks and everything. Like, I just think that plays into it. I'm not sure exactly how. They obviously mean it later,
Yeah.
but they saw him, and I think that that's part of the ooh, hey, something's up now.
we need to go find our chief and talk to him and be like, "Hey, chief, what's going on?
And it's been 5 years.
Why are you throwing horses at people?"
And look, we broke down a wall. We almost broke down a second wall.
Reiner broke down his brain.
We found out who a bunch of the Titan shifters are. We killed like a third of humanity. We got Annie and my other squad member killed or frozen.
Yep.
And you know what? I think we've done a good job.
We
I think
found
we've
a
done
stolen
enough.
Titan power.
I think we've done enough to be able to go back to our village with our heads held high. And what they're talking about is probably going back to the Gulag.
Yeah.
It's like our hometown. What does
like our
that flipping
hometown.
even mean?
They've made the Gulag like Eldea, like mini Eldea. Mini Paradise or something. I don't know.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So, spoiler related to that. So
We're
we
in
were
the spoiler
talking.
section.
We were talking about.
Say whatever you want to say.
He said spoiler related to that.
We were talking
They're
about
cousins.
the dehumanization thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mentioned this while we were watching it, is that I think that it's very intentional. Yeah, we're surrounded by idiots. I think it's all on purpose because later on, we see this when Grisha tells his story. We finally get to the basement, we read the notes. When Grisha tells his story, and in the Season 4 trailer, we see that, number one, that the Eldians are basically held in ghettos. And they have to wear armbands.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very reminiscent of World War II and the Jews. In fact, even the time period that we see Marley is in, the airships, it's very post-industrial, modern era, like World War II era like stuff or whatever. So it looks very much like that. And so that's why I think we're going to see more of that coming, because I think Isayama is a culturally aware dude, and I think that's just going to play into the show. So the whole dehumanize them, their ants, go kill them or whatever, I think is and where they're from, they literally keep them in freaking ghettos, and they're in trouble and they kill them when they don't,
feed them to dogs, beat them profusely.
Right. So, yeah. All right.
Is that any better, Amanda?
What was she saying?
That our audio sounds echoey.
Oh.
I hope not. Oh, yeah.
How about now?
Oh.
How do you
dang,
like
it's going to be
me
the recording, but so be it.
How do you like me? Oh, sorry, I'm an idiot.
Sorry, everybody. We had
I'm one of the
technical
idiots.
glitch. Okay, so, all right, so next spoiler I want to move on to is, so Reiner's like, hey, come with us. And we're like, well, come to where? Well, we know where. One of the things we were talking about is, he says our primary goal is to ensure all of humanity is wiped out. Obviously, they had some very important secondary goals because they were there for years. They could have just done more damage sooner.
Why didn't they break the walls down?
Why did they join the scouts? Actually, that is one thing I would love to know.
But now that's not necessary.
Is why join the scouts? I think it's apparent they didn't know Eren had the power when they joined, because they were surprised to find out he had it.
Everyone was.
But one of the things we were talking about is two things. So first of all, did did they really want everyone in Marley dead, and like what would be the consequences of that? So that's one conversation. The other one is,
You mean Paradise?
Paradise.
Yeah. Did everyone? Did the people who sent the Marlians who sent, Reiner and them, and did they want everybody actually dead? Is that the main goal? Because then like Titan power. The other thing is, what did they know? Like, what powers did they know were inside the walls besides the founding Titan power? So we were kind of talking about how. So they send Reiner and Berthold in. Did Reiner and Berthold go in with the information saying, "Hey, listen, we know the founding Titan's in there. Also, the attack Titan power has gone missing.
So it probably has been."
So we think it's in there, or it could be in there. And then on their way in, Ymir shows up and eats one of their buddies, and so they know that power is now missing as well.
Yeah.
So is that kind of part of the secondary mission? I was also commenting like, any good soldier gets sent on a mission, especially if it's a long one, you're going to have contingencies. It's not like you only have one plan, and when that gets derailed somehow,
I don't
know what's next. They probably had contingencies. So we were kind of wondering out loud about like, if they wanted so let's do them both. If they wanted everyone dead,
they could have done it 5 years ago.
They could have done it. And why do they want everyone dead? Your theory was good about the powers.
Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of a out there theory.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have much to go on, so I'm kind of just throwing it out there, and it makes sense. It kind of fills the void for now. But one of the reasons that they wanted, my opinion, is what they wanted to kill all the people on the island of Paradise is because right now we know that if somebody dies with the Titan power, their power randomly goes to a new Eldian being born.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where are all the Eldians?
Most of them are on Paradise.
Most of them are in Paradise, and a lot of them are in Marley. So if they say that the Marlians, who control like 7 of the Titan powers, they're fighting other wars with other continents, more civilized, developed continents, right? And as they're doing that, they're using their Titan power. So what happens if one of them accidentally falls in battle?
Yep.
And dies? Well,
where does that power go?
That Titan power could go to one of the Eldians that's in Marley, or it could go back to the island of Paradise. And I think they're worried.
More of them in Paradise. Seems like your odds are
right. We don't know how many there are.
They're going to get attracted to the larger population, like the dumb Titans.
Yeah, we don't really know how it works. Shifts. Yeah.
But what we do know is it's a liability. And right now, I think Marley is obviously guards the Titan powers extremely close. They specifically, in the season 4 trailer, we're talking about who gets to be the next warrior and who gets the new Titan powers or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so obviously they guard those powers and they hand them down person to person very close. They decide, just like the
who gets what.
Just like the sacrifice of the Rice family, they decide, okay, you're gonna eat this. You're gonna eat this guy. You're gonna eat his power. You're gonna be the new warrior, and you're gonna be under our thumb. And either we've got your family and we'll kill him if you don't do what I say, or we've brainwashed you so much to where you'll do whatever we say. Period.
Well, I mean, they did it to 4 people as children.
Yeah, so that's probably what
child
they do.
warriors are usually pretty.
Yeah,
so
which I know we're going to get more into that in season 4, especially Reiner's backstory.
One of the only things we've heard of is that Paradise is on a pretty good, rich, natural resource supply.
It's on an island.
One of the reasons they want to kill everybody. But I would say that they want to get all the Titan powers so they can continue their wars. Marley does. Marley wants to destroy the people on Paradise. That way, nobody could randomly get a Titan power if a Titan person falls.
That's beyond their reach.
Now that we're talking about it, it's kind of striking me. It may be because, remember, the owl was near the end of his 13 years when he gave the power intentionally gave the power over to Grisha, and then Grisha goes inside the walls. So he's near the end of his 13 years. No one was around when that happened. It was literally just him and Grisha. Everyone else is dead. So as far as what Marley discovers, maybe that's what they discover is like, hey, this power must have randomly gone away. I don't think that there's no way that they would have had. There's no way they for evidence. Sure could have known or had evidence that Grisha specifically was given the power, and then he specifically went into the walls and was told all this information about what to do when he got there. And I don't think they know any of that. They just know that one of the powers went missing, and like what you just said, that adds up to say that one of the attack Titan, a really strong power, just went missing. We can't have that happen again.
Let's go take out everybody inside the walls. Let's get the founding Titan power. That's one of the strongest ones and a really useful one. Let's get that and bring it back to us so we can continue fighting our wars. Let's get whatever Titan powers are over there. We think that the attack Titan power could be over there. And let's make sure that no Titan powers can go back there by proxy if the Titan wielder is killed. I think that's kind of the reason they were sent there. So
perhaps that's why Reiner was like, we don't have to break down the walls anymore because we found the guy who had the power, and then
They found two. They found two of the missing powers.
Yeah, they
Ymir,
found the one they lost, and
they
then
got Eren's. What they don't have is the founding Titan.
They
don't know that, but they later discover they're like, oh, he's the coordinate. I think that's sort of what the correlation is there. I think they figure that out.
Eren has two of the Titan powers.
Yeah. So
my guess was that they must assume that Eren was the mysterious person who inherited the power that went missing.
Yeah, and
I think they don't know about anything else.
I think they'll kill everybody in the Island of Paradise, but they'd rather not kill everybody until they find out who the Titan powers are, because if they do, that Titan power is going to go to a baby and they have to wait 13 years or so before that power can manifest again, before they actually know where it is. So they'd rather locate those. So I think that they first thing first, they have to get into the walls. So they break down the walls, cause a bunch of chaos, they slip in amongst them. Then I think their plan 2, contingency, was espionage. Join in, get to know people, kind of figure out in the military, they would have the Titan powers. They would know who the weapons are.
If they were wielding the powers, they would be wielding them within the military. Yeah,
and so one, they were all going to go to the MPs. But once they find out about Eren, okay, you go to the MPs and see if there's any more. See if we can find out about the founding Titan. We'll stick with Eren, and we'll try to capture Eren or whatever it is. And so I think they want to get the Titan power ability, and they want to get them out of there. And once they find out that Eren has them and Ymir has them, right there, great. And we're right here on the wall. Let's smash and grab. Let's get out.
Yeah, which makes Reiner's weird approach here seem a lot less, because we actually discussed this. We paused during the episode and actually kind of mentioned that. I was like, yeah, what if they just like if it was me, I'd be like, okay, grab Ymir, grab Eren, kick down the wall, let's go. Yeah, like then you've got 90% of what you accomplished done. Like, job well done. You know,
what a victory it would be.
They do all of that except for kicking down the wall, which is like the one thing that doesn't happen. But they do grab Eren, they grab Ymir. And then we get the fight of a lifetime.
Any more spoilers to discuss?
That's all I had. This episode is another one of those ones that feels like a spoiler because so much gets revealed. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There's a lot more we're going to get in the next episode anyways, so it's already been a long one.
Save it.
All right.
Thanks for sticking with us, guys.
Thanks.
You guys are great. Leave us a review on iTunes. Send us an email. Go find us on the Facebook.
Thanks again for watching and listening. If you're enjoying the show, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. If you're really loving it and you want some extra cool content, you can join our Patreon page over at patreon.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Check the show notes or our social media pages for links to some really rad Attack on Titan merch. All right, guys. See you next time.